There we go. Okay. Phew. I'm glad I remembered that. I almost forgot. Okay. So yeah, we have quite a few partners, and we will be doing a kind of meet and greet virtual session. I'd love it to be in person, but we'll see what happens
Yeah.
come
Me
September.
too.
But we'll also do at that time where you can actually meet the founders that we've selected to take part in the program. So we'll kind of do one big session there where everybody can get to know each other, including the partners get to know each other, and then the partners can get to know the the participants. So,
Okay.
and that I don't think we'll actually use Zoom for that. There's a couple of cool platforms that have been released over the pandemic that are really good for that. They're kind of fun for, I'll call it speed getting to know each other type of thing, rather
So
than.
why so, Matt?
What's that?
Why is that? What's different about them from Zoom?
There was one that we used among the among our people, our incubator teams, like to get to know each other, because we've had a lot of people sign up for the incubation program recently. It was called Icebreaker. I think they changed the name of it now. They rebranded, but it was really cool for just like these quick rapid fire get to know people type of sessions where you could go from one person to another. Just kind of a fun, engaging way to do it rather than like Zoom with breakout rooms and stuff like that. So
yeah, got it.
cool. Okay, so these are our program partners, and now let me give you an overview about Embark. So what first of all, what is Embark? So it's our newest program here at NextCorps, and it helps would-be founders. So these are not people that are actively working on a startup right now. They're just kind of thinking about it. They're in the very, very early stages, to help them discover, validate, and then actually build a software startup. And here's what's cool about it. They don't have to be software developers. They don't have to know how to code, and they don't have to leave their day job. Because a lot of these programs, as many of you on the call might know, is a lot of programs are designed to help existing companies that have a team and maybe a little bit of traction. And usually, especially in the software space, that's going to be a team that has maybe a business person and a developer. So this is taking an entirely different approach here, where we're trying to, work with people that are just starting out. Maybe they have an idea, or maybe they don't, and they don't actually have to be professional developers. And I'll share more about, who we're looking for this program a little later.
Okay.
So just to get everybody on the same page, though, how do we define a software startup? So for the purposes of this program, it's any company that sells a web or mobile, it doesn't really matter, that solves a defined problem and it's generally a problem that a business has. So we're really trying to target B2B software companies, just because it's a little easier to get it. Well, it's a lot easier to get businesses to pay if they have a kind of hair on fire problem that they need solved. It's easier to get businesses to pay for that than consumers. That said, some of the people that we've seen apply so far have been a bit of a mix of both, which is okay. But as long as there's like a B2B element, that's what we're looking for. And then the second aspect to that is they have to have a strong desire to grow and scale to at least $10 million of revenue in 5 years. So there are some people that want to start a software company, but their intent is more to create, and I don't mean this in a derogatory term, but more of like a lifestyle type of company. We are looking for founders that their intent is to grow, scale, hire people, and keep their business in the Rochester region, but scale far, far beyond our region in terms of customer base and in terms of maybe even employee base. So that's how we define a software startup, just to get everybody on the same page. Now, here's the question: why software? Why did we focus on that for this program? Because as you might know, NextCorps has a number of different programs. We have one for photonics and optics companies, one for manufacturers, one for clean tech manufacturers. So why do we pick software for this one? Number one is, you can get a software company going into revenue and traction pretty quickly relative, especially to companies that are like hardware companies that can take years and a lot of investment to turn into something substantial. Software is no longer the case, especially with what we'll call no-code tools. And I'll explain what I mean by that a little later. The software industry is experiencing tremendous growth, super high valuations, lots of acquisitions. So, it's a great industry to be in. And then the two other reasons are really more regional. And part of the reason why this was grant funded, one is The BCG identified the software industry here in Rochester in our region as a key sector to focus on. And so the goal of this, as I'll explain later, is to create brand new software companies here in our region that will foster growth for years to come. And then last but not least is software companies, because they can target national and global markets and pretty quickly coming out of the gate. It helps our region weather economic disruptions a little bit better. So if something happens like a pandemic, and say you're a local, brewery or whatever, and where you need to be face to face with customers, that can impact some of our regional resilience to things like that. So software companies can help weather that storm and create overall better resilience for our region. So that's why we're focusing on software in particular for this particular program. So what's our mission? Our mission is to create at least 10 brand new software startups in the Finger Lakes region within the next year. So one of the requirements when we've been recruiting people to take part in the program is that they're not yet a company. We're looking for people that are super early stage. They might have an idea of what they want to work on, but they haven't yet formally organized as an LLC. We want to get there super early. And the reason being is, just in my experience, the earlier you can get to a founder, even before they've selected their idea, the earlier people like us on this call can get to them and help them and give them the right advice and start them heading in the right direction, the better. And that's the idea behind this program. Let's get them, even before they've selected their idea, they have the raw material to succeed. And we're going to take and work with them to make sure they're running, 1,000 miles an hour in the correct direction from the very beginning. So we want to create 10 brand new companies. And specifically for those companies, our kind of metric is to try to get them to $10,000 in monthly recurring revenue. Reason being is just for software companies, for B2B software companies, this is just an early milestone that shows that you have some traction. You've demonstrated a little bit of what we'll call product market fit. You've identified a need in a market, and people are willing to spend enough money with you on a recurring basis that once you hit that 10K, that's like a very good sign. You can start to scale things up. You can start to make investments from there to scale up that revenue. If you can't get there, or it takes a long time to get there, that's also a sign. So what we want to do is try to get these founders to that level within a year of them launching their product publicly. So that could happen within the program because the program is a year long. It might happen just outside of them taking part of the program, but our goal is nonetheless get them to that 10K MRR milestone. And we'll do Q&A at the end, by the way, for anybody who joined a little late. So who have we recruited as participants? So I should say we've been recruiting for the past couple months. We have a great list, actually. We exceeded our recruitment goals, and we're trying to whittle that list down now. And we're going to be selecting the participants next Tuesday is when the 31st. So we've already recruited a number of participants. Now we're just trying to figure out who we're going to actually take into the programs. But here's who we recruited. We recruited people, obviously, they had to have an interest in launching a software-based startup someday. So not hardware or not a services type of business. We were trying to find a good mix of founders that are pre-idea, as well as people that might be early on in the path of pursuing one idea. They have to have a desire or interest in creating software to solve business problems versus like a consumer type of startup. And then we were looking for people that have at least 3 years of domain experience in a specific industry. Reason being there is that after 3 years in any industry, generally speaking, you can start to see problems in the space that could be potentially solved with software. And versus if you're, say, a recent graduate and you don't have a lot of professional experience, you might not have had the time to be able to see and get to know an industry to the level where you could identify a problem to solve. So we're really looking for people that have at least 3 years of experience. And the people that applied, luckily, they have many years of experience across multiple domains. So we were lucky in that perspective. Obviously, they have to make the commitment to succeed in the program. And I'll talk about what the participant expectations are a little later. And then this is a regional program. So it was funded to be a regional economic development type of program. So they have to be living and in the Finger Lakes region, and that's the counties listed here. And they have to have an intent to stay here as well. Like they want to, they're committed to our region, and they want to stay and grow a successful startup in our region. So we actually have had to term a couple people out of it because they had the intent later on to move. So really focused on just our region. So who have we not recruited to participate? Who did we, actively avoid? We didn't want existing software startups for the reason I mentioned earlier. There's in the startup world, some of you might be familiar with this. There are founders that go around from business plan competition to business plan competition, just handing out the hat, looking for funding for their idea. We actively made the application process to try to avoid those types of people, because we've noticed that they tend to not have a commitment to one program and really settle down. They try to apply to anything and everything just to get a little bit of funding. And that's not the type of participant that we wanted for this program. They tend to be less committed. We were actively avoiding consumer-facing startup concepts. So we're not trying to do like, the next Facebook out of this program. That would be amazing. But, the odds, as we all know, on developing a successful social network are minuscule, and we're trying to get people to revenue quickly. So no things like dating apps either, anything where there was a significant chicken and egg type of scenario and where it was consumer facing. There's a couple that kind of toe the line that we're looking at that sell to both businesses and consumers, but it had to have that business element. Software developers. So we actually are going to invite a couple of software engineers and developers to this program, but those developers have to be open to using, and they are, what are called no-code tools, tools that help non-technical people build software. And I'll show you about that later. They have to be comfortable though. That said, they can't be somebody where they open up Excel and they're intimidated by the Microsoft Office suite. That's generally not a good fit for this program. So we were trying to find people, we qualified them on their comfort level with learning new technology. And then really, obviously, last but not least, they have to be willing to put in the work. So, we've designed this program for people that they can be working full time, but even with that said, they have to have, the commitment to put the significant effort to be successful. And we're matching them with a ton of support. So obviously support from the partners who are on this call, but also, education. So weekly sessions where we're literally educating them on how to do customer discovery, how to validate their startup idea, and then how to actually develop their idea and build their idea using no-code tools. They're going to be part of a cohort. So we're going to have 30 participants in this cohort. And so they'll be surrounded by peers, and they'll have that peer-to-peer support. We have interns that are going to be, we have 15 from U of R and 15 from RIT that are going to be providing support for the founders throughout the program. We've kind of handpicked some mentors in addition to our program partners, but handpicked some mentors that are going to be helping out. And actually, I should note that we're always looking for more mentors. So if there are folks that you think could be good to be a mentor for this program and have the kind of requisite background, like some software experience and entrepreneurship experience, please make an intro to me. I'd love to meet them. And then last but not least is we do have opportunities for them to get grant funding, but there are some restrictions for that. And it's not a guarantee of them being part of the program. So, but if they are successful, they make it through all the milestones in the program, we can fast track them to some grant opportunities that we have here at NextCorps. So lots of support. I think, this between all of these things here, we're really lining these founders up for potential success. So what are they actually going to do, and how does this program going to work? So we have four phases to the program: discover, validate, build, and grow. And they each map, you can see underneath, how they map to the calendar year. Roughly speaking, there might be some overlap here, but so in the discover phase, we're going to get them, help them kind of qualify and target their target customer, do some discovery interviews, and learn kind of the basics of a platform called bubble.io, which is the no-code tool we're going to use for the program. Then in phase two, they validate that idea. So they go out, and conduct validation interviews, building pre-launch landing pages. brainstorming potential solutions and kind of creating a concept description. And then we'll be teaching them further into the Bubble platform and more advanced concepts for Bubble. Then in phase 3, the build phase, right after the first of the year, we're going to actually have them start to build their initial version of their software product using Bubble. And that's why we had to educate them in the months prior to that, kind of give them a baseline understanding of how to use Bubble. And then in January, they start actually building. And then they'll be iteratively testing and refining their product with some ongoing user feedback. And at the end of that build phase in March, we will be down selecting of the 30 that were invited. We will take the 10 best to down select them for them to continue on to the grow phase, which is March to September. And that's where we'll actually work to them to say, okay, you're at the point that you've demonstrated that you're solving a problem for a group of people. You've built a prototype. Now it's time to maybe formally organize the company, start to build and grow your team, get you to first customer revenue on the way to that 10K monthly recurring revenue milestone, helping them build a fundraising plan and apply for grant funding. And then they'll be giving a final presentation to the partners and funders at the very end of the program. So those 10 teams will do that at the end. So that's the overall map. Now, here, what does this mean for you as a partner? Where can you contribute here? And so what I've done is I've mapped this same thing here, but here's the specific things we need help with at each phase. And I've also put down, now everybody on the call here is welcome to stay involved throughout the program, obviously, but I've mapped out underneath where I think the different partners are most likely to be able to spend the time contributing, where your contributions are most valuable, potentially knowing the background of the organization. So in that discover phase, early on, we need help with helping them with market research and connections to potential discovery interviews. So that's going to be ideal, we think, for kind of more the U of R students that are going to be helping, Visible MR, Focus Group It, and really just for everybody, connections to potential customer discovery interviews. Like we'll be putting out an email early on, and this could be like a weekly type of thing, where if somebody like needs an intro to somebody who's a like a professional web developer, they're going to build a product for developers or something, or designers. Then, we'll put out a call to say, hey, can anybody in your networks, can you name somebody who fits this profile that one of our founders is trying to talk to for the purposes of learning about their problems and their needs and pain points. So really, we'd ask for everybody's help there, kind of opening up their networks for those customer discovery types of conversations. In the validate phase, they're going to really need help with gathering early user feedback on product concepts, naming, early branding and design. They might be creating a logo, creating a name at that time, and then putting together a landing page. So that's going to be U of R students, RIT students definitely will be valuable at that point. Rivet, ITX, OneSpark, Visible MR, T4, and then Focus Group It and Advise Us. So those would be and again, I'm not trying to exclude anybody here, where I'm just looking at the backgrounds of the different organizations and trying to map them where I think your contributions could be most valuable. In the January phase, that's going to be where actually they're building. So they're going to be designing clickable wireframes. They're going to be actually designing their application. They're going to be doing no code development on Bubble, which sometimes with Bubble, it can involve some light coding as well for certain apps. So I think that's where the RIT students are going to be invaluable. ITX, Rivet, Live Tiles, Datto, and Innovative Solutions would be really, I think the contributions would be great there. And then in the grow phase, that's where really everybody, I think all hands on deck, is where we've down selected to those 10 teams. And that's all about, like, they have really validated their concept at that point. They have something that they can sell. So that's where they need help with formally organizing as a company, marketing, sales, pitch development, investor connections, hiring, networking, the whole gamut. And that's where I think everybody, all of the partners can have something to contribute really in that grow phase. So some quick hit facts about the program. We have 30 founders, as I mentioned earlier, and we're down selecting to 10. They didn't need to have a startup idea to apply, and in fact, actually, one of our hypotheses with this program, because this is our pilot here, this is the first year we're running this, but our hypothesis is that people that start with the customer and the problem rather than with their idea that they just happen to brainstorm. Our hypothesis is that they will actually be more successful. We'll see if that plays out. But that's the thinking currently. And that's something that we're going to see through this program if that plays out. They didn't need to have a team, so we're okay with solo founders. That said, we will try to match them with a co-founder. So if there's a pairing in the group, in the cohort that seems to make sense, we'll match them up, and or just try to get them matched up with somebody in our region as a co-founder if we think that that's the right path for them. They don't need to be a software developer because we're going to be teaching them how to use no-code tools, which are made for non-technical people. And I keep mentioning no-code, and just to get the landscape here, what I mean by that is any software that helps to build new software applications without that person knowing how to code. This is a massive trend in the startup industry right now. It's completely changing the game because it used to be that you had to be a developer, or at least you had to have a developer on your founding team to be able to build a product. If not that, you'd had to outsource to a firm, and that was sometimes painful, especially for early founders. They don't have money to hire, good agencies. So tools like Bubble, which is kind of the leading platform for right now for this, has a huge community behind it, and they just raised $100 million of venture funding to continue their growth. So that's the platform we're going to be teaching these founders and having them standardize using Bubble to build their software applications. And Gartner estimates, in terms of just stats for this trend, they estimate that by 2024, no-code application development will be responsible for more than 65% of application development activity. So this is a huge trend, and that represents billions and billions of dollars of potential opportunity. So not only are they going to learn how to create a software startup, but actually the skills that they'll learn and build and using no-code tools to build applications will also be transferable to their day jobs and their careers in general. So it's really kind of two benefits out of this. They're not yet working full-time on their ideas. So we really designed this to be flexible because, it's hard if you just have an idea and you have no revenue, right? You haven't really proven anything. You might be tempted to jump off and really believe in your idea, but that's not usually the best idea. So really, we've designed this program to be extremely flexible for those who are working full time, or they don't have to be. Like, we have some people that applied where they were really hit by COVID. They've had trouble kind of finding full-time employment that fits with their skill set, and so we'll let some we'll have some of those folks in as well. So but either way, we're trying to design it around people's lifestyles such that they can participate in this program and be successful without having to leave their day jobs. That said, we're asking for at least 5 hours a week for them to be successful. And I think it's going to take more, but this is like the baseline of like, they have to put in like an hour a weekday, maybe use their lunch hour or something like that, or an hour at night to put the work in to be successful with this. So we'll help, like the students from U of R and RIT, I think will help supplement some of this effort, but the founders have been asked, and a requirement is at least 5 hours a week for them to be successful. And one of those hours will be a live session that will run with all of the people in the cohort. There's no cost for these founders to participate in the program. It is funded by an EDA grant from COVID relief, as well as, we're, like I said before, we're very thankful for the support of the partners on the phone or on the Zoom call here. So there's no cost as a result of this for people to participate. And we also, we don't give out any funding though. That said, I mentioned this earlier, the terms of our grant strictly prohibit us from giving money directly to the program participants. That said, we do have small budgets that NextCorps can spend to help fund some of their out-of-pocket costs. Like there's a small subscription to Bubble, or if they wanted to use a landing page builder and that costs, $30 a month or something like that. We actually have part of the grant money can be spent for that, but it can't be given directly to the team. It has to be spent by NextCorps on behalf of the program participants. We don't take any equity. So not only is there no cost for them to participate, but unlike traditional startup accelerator programs, many of which do take a piece, anywhere from 5 to 10% of the company, we are not taking any equity in any of the startups in the program, nor when they graduate. So this is purely just to get them started, to get them on their way, and to create more companies and more successful companies in our region. Sessions are going to take place, unfortunately, via Zoom. I really wish, we'll see what happens. I think we'll try to do a mix, but it's going to be a game time decision, unfortunately. So I think that the sessions are going to take place by Zoom. Now, that said, Zoom is flexible. So, if we did these over a lunch hour, it means somebody doesn't have to travel downtown to our facility to make the session. So we are trying to accommodate, the founders' lifestyles and their work circumstances. So Zoom is flexible for that. But I think with that said, we will look for opportunities to try to do in-person sessions as well, because as we all know, there's just a different dynamic with in-person, and it's much better for cohesion and community. So I would be the one that will be running this program, as you can probably figure out by now. So my background, in case I know a lot of people on the call, but just in case, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been doing startups for a number of years now, primarily building software companies in the market research industry. That's just my industry. I've been in that for 20 years. I currently have 3 software companies, and all, roughly speaking, in the customer feedback space. Unfortunately, I used custom code. I wish I had used no code for my products, because it would have been a lot easier to get them off the ground, but that's a different story for another day. And then years back, I was, co-founder of a company called Plugged In. We built like private social networks for big enterprises to collaborate with their customers. And that company got acquired by Edelman, which is the world's largest PR firm. So I've kind of been through the whole life cycle. I have started a software company, sold a software company. I have a number right now. And my background is in like that customer discovery and research, which is, really comes to bear when they're trying to learn about their customers and validate their ideas. I can use my experience to help them make sure they're asking the right questions, and they're doing it in a way where they're gathering data from customers in a way that's going to get them completely unbiased and objective feedback, which can be an issue when you're trying to validate your idea. So I'll be the one running it. Melanie Della Pietra we've hired as a program coordinator. She couldn't be on the call this week because she's on vacation, like a lot of people this week, but she'll be, you'll see a lot of emails from her. I think you got the email for this, the invite for this from her. So, she'll be the one corresponding with a lot of the program participants and partners to make sure everything goes smoothly. And she'll be on all the sessions as well. So how can you help as a partner? This is all a long-winded way to say, how can you make the most of your time with us and your contributions here? So I would encourage you to attend the virtual sessions as your schedule allows. They will be weekly for the first 6 months. You don't have to by any means, but I tried to outline on that earlier slide where I think each company's and organization's contributions would be most effective. So I think we'd ask that at least during that time, when they're in a certain phase where your contributions could be valuable, it would be awesome to have you on the weekly sessions at that time. And then in general, like I just said, providing support during the phases where you feel you can contribute the most. Introductions, I mentioned this earlier, but I'll say it again, introductions for the early customer discovery conversations. That's going to be super, super helpful. It's very difficult for founders sometimes to go out and find people to talk to and purely, they're not trying to pitch anything. It's really just going to be purely for trying to learn about a target market and, what are their pain points? What challenges do they have? And how could those challenges be solved with software? So intros for people for those conversations can help a lot. When they get a beta product, if something is applicable to your organization, it would be awesome if you'd be willing to kind of kick the tires and try it a little bit in a pilot kind of capacity, because that's another thing that software startups struggle with, is trying to find people that are willing to be a little bit, early on and try new things out. So I think if your organization or you personally are willing to try something out, that would be awesome as well. And then what are our expectations? There's just a couple little guidelines things. So because a lot of the people, this is unusual, but because a lot of the people that are going through the program are working full-time, we're being very conscious of, we don't want anybody to get fired for going through this program. Some employers are great about this stuff and very supportive, Other employers, not so much. They kind of frown upon nights and weekends types of activities like this. They view it as a threat, unfortunately. So we ask that until the participants are ready to share their identities, that you not disclose who is going through the program. So any of the participants, until they're comfortable, and once they've kind of launched a product to the world, that's a different story, and we'll let you know at that time. But please keep the identities of the participants, and then the discussions and things that we do in the sessions and their ideas and things. If you can just keep that confidential, we would really, really appreciate that. And then from just sort of paperwork requirements, we're going to have a template where just once a quarter, you just tell us, hey, this is what we did in terms of our in-kind contributions for the last quarter. And we'll give you a template for that, so you can just kind of fill it in and send it to us, and we'll send you an email at the time to remind you of that. So those are just the kind of simple expectations in terms of what we need from our program partners. And next steps and key milestones. Like I said earlier, we are selecting the cohort on the 31st, and that's where we're down selecting from all the applicants that we had down to 30. Early September, we're going to do those intro sessions where we'll actually do a meet and greet where you can meet the participants and you can meet each other in a kind of structured session. We're going to launch the week of the 15th. We have not figured out what day that week, and reason being is during our recruitment process, and we actually don't know yet what day it's going to be of the week for the regular weekly sessions. And that's because we asked all of the participants, what are the times of day that are going to be the best for you, trying to structure it around their lives rather than how we would want to run it. So we're trying to be participant centric here, understanding that they're busy with work and personal lives. So we're trying to find the best time of day for these sessions to be in. Currently, the most popular time slot is Friday at noon, but we'll see if we end up settling on that. So then we'll be doing the weekly guided instruction on the startup concepts and no-code development. Those are the sessions that I'll be running each week to kind of teach people on these tools and concepts and give them their next steps. And then in March, we down selected the 10 teams, and the program concludes with final presentations in September. So yeah, that was a lot. I apologize. I thought I was going to get that in 30 minutes, but it took a little longer. But any questions? Any questions from the folks on the call here?
Hey Matt, this is Ryan.
Right.
Sounds like you have quite a few applicants already, and you're on the cusp of making your down selects. Are you still accepting any applicants at this time?
If you know a couple folks that really meet the criteria, we've had a couple people ask, like they found out about it a little too late. Send them our way.
Okay.
But we might have to, at this point, kind of do a wait list thing type of thing to see if we can accommodate it.
So let me ask a follow-up question then, because I know of a recent grad who had done some things in the Simone Center and had a idea about a potential software startup that he was thinking about doing.
Okay.
And then he was doing some work for an existing software company.
Uh-huh.
And during the course of their discussions, it was almost like a consulting gig.
Okay.
And this guy is not a software developer. He's actually a graduate of the business school.
Okay.
But he was doing some work for this existing company, and they got talking about the idea that he had for this software startup he was considering.
Uh-huh.
And the company that was hiring him said, well, we really like that idea.
Okay.
It's like, would you consider perhaps going ahead and launching your startup and then just using us as your first customer?
Okay.
And so they ended up kind of doing that instead of just hiring him as a consultant. The dude actually got an LLC and is contracted with this company to do some work for them along the lines of this business he wanted to start. So the question is, you said you wanted people who hadn't actually incorporated yet,
Yeah.
but because of these weird circumstances this one has, but it is at day one of this software development company.
He might be too far along for Embark because he's formally organized and down the path of and was really selected an idea. That said,
Yeah.
I would encourage you, please make an intro to me because they could be a great person to be part of our incubation program. Because we can take them from, from where they are now, from 1 to 10 in that program. We're trying to take people here from 0 to 1, but sounds like they're at kind of 1 and we can take them up.
I think he's more like 0.5.
0.5, okay.
He was thinking
make
about
that a rating thing.
He was thinking about going from 0 to 1, and he kind of got a pretty unique set of circumstances. I've never heard of something like this happening before, but anyway, I'll try to do an introduction.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, because we can help. I don't know if Embark, he might be a little far for Embark, but even at 0.5, believe it or not. So cool. Any other questions? Or suggestions, I should say.
Yeah, let me ask. Let me test that your last statement there. You know about the NSF I-Corps programs, right? We have a site, we have a node, partner with U of R and Cornell, and so we send student teams through these customer discovery exercises all along. Obviously, a lot of duplicative kind of activities of what's going on in Embark, but different. They're doing lean launchpad training as opposed to sort of what we have set up here. And historically, a lot of these have gone on and they've incorporated and done quite well. And that's the same kind of thing we're trying to do here. If a student team has gone through I-Corps training and they have an idea that they're actually going to pursue it and try to make it real, would they be a candidate, or are they too far along?
Going through I-Corps is totally fine. They might feel that the content we're delivering in the first month or two is a little redundant from what they've already learned in I-Corps, but that's not an issue. The bigger issue though is whether or not they have do they have domain experience? Like, are these undergrads or like that haven't, don't have industry experience, or are these grad students, or?
It could be either. Primarily undergraduates, but these are teams. They're usually like, they might have a couple of people, software designers. They might have a couple of, there might be a computer scientist, there might be a business student. We kind of, they do self-organize, but they're kind of complementary skill sets of the team members.
Yeah. Send them my way. We'll see if we can. I mean, again, it might be wait list at this point because we already are oversubscribed to in terms of applicants, but send them my way. We'll see. I mean, we want to fill that slot of 30 with the people that are going to have the best possible chance of success. So I would still be open to talking to people. Yeah, it has to be before the 31st or before the 30th.
The second one was more philosophical. Maybe
okay.
A future cohort. Because it wouldn't surprise you that we do get quite a few of these student teams that are focused on software, potential startups. And so they're coming through all the time. So just wanted to know if we did a future cohort, we could probably farm some there.
Yeah, absolutely. For future cohorts, definitely. Any other questions or suggestions?
Matt, Teresa, I just wanted to make a suggestion for what it's worth. I think, certainly, as you point out, they're coming from 0 to 5 or 1 here. And so, just given the time constraints that the partners have, we may not be as frequently active on the calls with you, just because we're not going to be able to have the time to do that. Yeah. But one of the things I might have you think about is something that I'm invited on a regular basis to participate, usually like once a month, and they'll pick 1 or 2 companies that are really making progress and put them in front of the partners. And this person just presents and then says, okay, these are my asks. And everybody around the call said, I can introduce you here, or I know this person or that person. And
Yeah.
it's just a way for your partners to help you in a focused way.
I love
Yeah.
that idea. Yeah, I'm going to write that down. That's a great
Okay.
idea. That's a very, because I really want to make sure that this is, to your point, everybody on this call, very busy. You're all doing your own thing. And we really are very grateful for your contributions and understand that you're time constrained. So we want to make, so if we could do something that's streamlined like that, where we just curate just a hand-picked group and then present them to you, I'm 100% behind that. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah. Curate is the exact right word, Matt.
Yeah, no, so not all 30, because that would
Right.
be
Yes, thank you.
yeah, curate just the people that we start to see that are making early progress, and we think the partners could help the most. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Cool. Any other ideas like that? We are all open, all about listening here. So any other suggestions?
Matt, how did you reach out to find these people at this stage? I'm curious, just out of idle curiosity, what your process was, because
yeah, let me tell you, it was a huge group. Like, we reached out to everybody in the community. I'll actually, let me see. Program marketing. There was a list of at least 30 people and organizations that we reached out to. Like, early on, there was like radio shows that got us some interest that Jim did. And then, obviously U of R and RIT, we reached out through lots of professors and groups there.
Sure.
Like, even people in the Buffalo community, we were like, Jack Grocco put us in his newsletter. Rock Dev put us in their newsletter. The city of Rochester put some stuff out. Jumpstarting Rochester, like everybody that we knew that we could call in favors, we did to help with recruitment.
Good idea. Well, you did it. That's great.
Yeah, it worked. And a huge thank you to Melanie, who's not on the call, but she was just knocking down doors. It was amazing. So that was awesome. But yeah, we used every avenue that we could. And, I think what you're going to see too is, as a result, we got a very good diverse group of people. So we were shooting for, like, we really want this to be a diverse audience of founders, from all different walks of life and different backgrounds and different economic circumstances. So we have, we have a good mix. I think you'll see once we announce it. And again, once we announce, by the way, I just want to reiterate this. Everything is Las Vegas rules on this until they're actually a company and they're comfortable saying that they are part of the program. And that's totally contrary to every other accelerator program, where usually you're announcing on like day one that you got in. We're trying to keep things very much under the radar to begin with until they're ready. So, but we will let all the partners know. We'll send around a profile of who we've let in. So,
thank you.
Anyone else? Questions, suggestions? Okay, cool. So I've been recording. Glad I remembered to do that. And I'll circulate the recording. So if you ever need a reminder, I can also circulate these slides, because I know there was a slide where I outlined the program and how it's going to work over the next year. So you're welcome to take a look at the slides as well. And then we'll be in touch. Our next step is to get you in touch with a date for September, when we'll do that intro and networking session. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Matt. Very thorough.
Yeah, nice job, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Matt.
Bye.